Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider TV, brought to you, as mentioned in the open, by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Hey, we appreciate Don Staley and all the great folks there at Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports supporting our program and also doing so much for our West Alabama community. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVOA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. And Rod, it's back to work for the Crimson Tide. It may be Christmas this week, but Alabama's getting busy as the team pursues a prize even bigger than Bryce Young's Heisman Trophy or just about anything else in college football, the national championship. Bama 2 wins away from a 7th national title in the last 13 years. There's Bryce Young, the Heisman winner. Alabama went to practice, back to practice last week. This is video from yesterday's practice, Rod. And listen, Coach Saban is all about the process, but he knows full well, and I think everybody that follows this program understands, regardless of how talented you are, and Alabama's among the most talented teams in the country, you don't win the game when you show up for the game. You win it during the preparation, during the week in the regular season, and in this case, the 2 weeks leading up to the game. You don't get it done right now in the practice field, you're not going to show up against Cincinnati and have success.
Well, how many times has he said it throughout the season, Gary, leading up to games, about the preparation, that he had some maybe concerns about the way they had prepared, and we saw games where, you know, they really looked like they weren't well prepared. They weren't mentally focused. They had a lot of inconsistencies, all of those things. And now this game, when you head in against a team like Cincinnati, who maybe isn't the name opponent, you've got to really make sure you've got the focus.
Well, Alabama quarterback Bryce Young sounds eager to return to football, even if it's practice right now. College football, and the Heisman Trophy winner says he and this team have not reached, as we talked about, the ultimate goal, which is the national championship.
It doesn't change, me. It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't feel like it's a difference for me or a difference in my life. I still have to show up every day here and, put my all into it, get better. There's a lot for me individually to get better at, a lot for us as a team that we want to improve on. So, that's been the mindset. It's going to be the mindset.
And I'm sorry for jumping there before I went to the soundbite. I'm not scared of Bryce Young talking on television, something like, sorry, a shock absorber going down here, something maybe startled me for a second there, but it's all good. Live TV, folks. All right, notes from head coach Nick Saban's press conference on Monday. Alabama, Rodney, has returned to the 2020 safety protocols due to this spike in COVID-19, this Omicron variant, which is running rampant through sports teams around the country. So Alabama is going to take all the precautions that it took last year leading up to the college football playoff. Rod, no update on linebacker Chris Allen. Coach was asked about him. He simply said that, we're just going to have to wait and see, that that's a tough injury to rehab, and he's trying to get rehabbed. He did not rule him out, but said, basically I don't have any news on that, and that it's pretty much up in the air. Rod, this football team, as we talked about earlier, it has not been, you look at 12-1 in an SEC championship, and most schools around the country in this league would be like, we're going to put billboards up. But here, it's the expectation, and even though Alabama has reached the ultimate goal, which is to be in the college football playoff as the #1 seed, it hasn't, let's say, flowed quite as smoothly as it did last year. This has, to some degree, been a rocky season. There was the loss at A&M and several close games that Alabama managed to win. So even though Alabama's right where many of us thought that the Crimson Tide would be, it hasn't always been easy.
Well, and I think that's what's made it one of Nick Saban's probably best coaching jobs, the way he's managed this team through. Again, a lot of inexperience. You lost a ton of players last year. We've talked about that repeatedly, Gary, the inexperience on offense. And you mentioned the inconsistencies throughout the season, but they found a way to win games. Yeah, they lost to Texas A&M, but they found a way to win all these games. They were down in the Auburn game, minute 35 left. They make the great drive. And then they go in and beat Georgia, which is supposedly unbeatable. So, the things that they've achieved so far have been fantastic when you consider all the circumstances, but, there's still a lot lying ahead.
Yeah, and Coach Saban always talks about playing your best football. They remember what you do in November, and, of course, certainly now with the playoff, and Alabama played its best game of the year against Georgia in that SEC championship. By the way, Rod, I'm still catching heat for picking picking Georgia to win that game. Somebody comes out on my social media page every day and reminds me of it. All right, it's now time for Coach Talk. Replacing John Mechie in the Alabama wide receiving corps is not going to be easy. We know that. You don't get better when you lose a player of Mechie's caliber the way Alabama did in that SEC championship game to torn ACL against Georgia. But Alabama has some talented candidates to step up. Here's head coach Nick Saban.
You know, Javon Baker's done a good job. Trayshawn Holden has done a good job. Jai Hall is, you know, making some good plays. You know, I think those guys, you know, look forward to the opportunity that they have, and they're doing the best they can to get prepared to try to be able to, you know, help the team every way that they can. You know, Corey has, you know, been playing well for us, so, you know, he's also, you know, a guy that's continues to improve.
All right, Rod, you heard Coach Saban there mention a lot of the candidates to step up. Obviously, Ja'Cory Brooks came up huge in the Auburn game when Jamison Williams was out nearly the whole game, went out in the first half with a targeting call. You heard some other guys mentioned there. Listen, Alabama wishes it had John Mechie. Absolutely. Alabama wishes it had Chris Allen. It wishes it had Jace McClellan. You know, you hate injuries that impact your team. But as I said, there's some talented players, and the difference now is they know John Mechie's out. They're preparing the next couple of weeks to play and be a factor in the game. I don't think Alabama's better without John Mechie, but I do think they've got a talented enough core of wide receivers to help pick up the slack.
Well, I think the experience that Trayshawn Holden got during the season throughout, I think that's going to be really valuable. Ja'Cory Brooks coming up big right here. You know, the game that he had against Auburn, that's a real confidence builder. He was a 5-star recruit. Trayshawn Holden was a 4-star recruit. These guys are very talented. Jai Hall, I mean, he can be as good as he wants to be, and that's the key, wants to be. So, you know, these guys are obviously very talented. JoJo Earl, we might see JoJo back, and if we did, that would certainly be a really valuable addition bringing him back. So, again, it's by committee, and I think, too, when you look at the tight ends, Gary Cameron Latu, Jaleel Billingsley, you know, they have a ton of experience. They have a ton of ability. So those guys could continue to become more factors in these last couple of games, hopefully.
Absolutely. That's why Alabama recruits the way that this program recruits. So you have quality depth. You see it year in, year out. Other programs lose players, they can't recover. Alabama loses key players, the tide just keeps on rolling. All right, portal news. Later on, we've got some news of a guy coming to Alabama. But right now, former Alabama quarterback Marcus Banks will stay in the SEC West and transfer to Mississippi State. Banks announced his decision on Monday night. He entered the transfer portal on November the 8th following Alabama's win over LSU. In that game, freshman Kool-Aid McKinstry earned the start in place of injured starter Josh Jobe. Now, the season before, he entered the transfer portal and then got out of it. But this year, even though he started here against Mercer and had 4 tackles and an interception, Rod, he says that, well, obviously he does more than says he's moving to Mississippi State. He's going. We hate to lose a talented player, but, you know, all these players have to do what they think is best for them.
Yeah, I really hate it for Marcus Banks because now would have been a really golden opportunity for him with the situation at corner, some uncertainties there. You know, but, hey, best luck to him. I thought he was a fantastic player coming out of Houston.
Yeah, and indeed, Alabama's replacing him, if you want to look at it, with a guy who's already an All-American. More on that coming up. All right, so still to come on Tider Insider Television. We recap the first national signing period. Alabama was busy with signing high school recruits, and as we mentioned, the transfer portal pays dividends again for the Crimson Tide. And while Alabama still has a few spots open in its 2022 signing class, 2023 already being worked on, and it could get a boost later this week. We'll fill you in on what's going on there, and we'll also be getting, pardon me, to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The phone number, as you see, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. There's the email address, and you can also holler at us on Twitter using the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV.
What about that bell?
That never gets old, does it, Rodney?
Sure doesn't.
Welcome back to Tider Insider TV. Brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports, Gary Harris, Rodney Orr, and National Signing Day. You know, I'm not embellishing here. You got to develop players. You got to get it done on the field. But ultimately, the kind of program that you have, Rodney, I don't think it's a stretch to say this, is more about what happens in the homes of these recruits every year. You got to get talent. Nobody does it better than Nick Saban. Last Wednesday, the first day of the December national signing period, Alabama put together the second best class in the country according to the 24/7 composite. Crimson Tide signed 23 high school players. And we talked about most of these young men last week, Rodney, when we previewed the class. And we'll have a recap show coming up in February in the second signing period. But, Rodney, I want to focus on, since we focused last week on the recruits, this portal, because Alabama, Nick Saban said it. First of all, he was not a fan of the portal, but he said, listen, it's not going to hurt us as you're looking at some of the high school players that signed. He said, our best players will want to stay here, but we'll be able to get some of the best players from other programs. And that's what happened with Eli Ricks, former All-American, freshman All-American at LSU, a cornerback transferring in. You're going to see video of him right here against Alabama right there on the tackle. A cover corner, has 5 interceptions in 14 career games. As we said, outstanding freshman season, was hurt this season, didn't play the whole year. And now the news today that running back Jahmyr Gibbs is coming in from Georgia Tech, much like we saw last year. Alabama really only added 2 players, Jamison Williams and Henry To'oTo'o, but they were great players that helped Alabama get to this position that it's in to play for a national championship again. These 2 players are great players. They're not average. They're not okay. They're not pretty good. They're great, proven college football players.
Yep, they are. And, you know, Gary, a lot of people complaining now. All of a sudden, these fans at other schools are saying, you know what? Alabama has a shortcoming. They just go to the portal and get better. And you look at it last year, Jamison Williams, he added speed, he added experience. That wide receiver court paid off big time this year. Paid off big time for him too, Gary. And guess what? When these guys at other schools that are considering hitting the portal, when they see Jamison Williams improve his stock the way he did, nobody really talked much about Jamison Williams last year. In fact, he was the number 3 receiver at Ohio State. Comes here, now he's a top 10, 12 pick. And you look at Henry To'oTo'o, led the team in tackles, had a tremendous year. So now when you talk about Elias Ricks having the opportunity to come here, help himself. Also, I think Jahmyr Gibbs, this is a fantastic running back. He's going to bring something special to Alabama.
Speed,
Elusiveness, yeah. Gary, but not only that. His ability, his versatility to catch the football as well. He's caught 59 passes in 2 years out of the backfield. He's got a little bit of Alvin Kamara in him.
Yeah, and you think about Alabama this year, going into the season, you're like, oh my gosh, how are they going to find playing time for all these running backs? 2 or 3 or 4 injuries later, and you're wishing you had another one. As you said many times, Rodney, you can't get enough running backs. It is probably the position where durability is valued and probably the hardest position to stay durable in, because you are a target every time you touch that football. Plus, you have to block, too. I mean, you take probably more abuse at that physical abuse in the football game than at any other position on the field.
Yeah, you do. And, again, you think you have enough, and then all of a sudden you don't have any. But Jahmyr Gibbs, the kickoff returns, Gary. Yeah. I mean, he's such a weapon as a receiver, running back. He's so quick. He changes direction. We said Alvin Kamara. He does remind me a little bit of a former Alabama running back, faster, but a little bit of Shad Williams.
Yeah, he has a little bit of that in him. All right, the portal paying dividends again for the Crimson Tide. All right, moving on. Wide receiver Zachariah Branch of Bishop Gorman High School, famed Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas, will announce his college choice on Friday, Christmas Eve. Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and USC are the finalists. That's how good this kid is. Those are 4, juggernaut programs. He is the number 14 prospect in the country in the class of 2023. He's a dynamic athlete. Last year, he was clocked in the 100-meter dash at 10.33 seconds. All right, Alabama is one of his finalists, but I feel like maybe a long shot here for his commitment. Rodney, what do you hear?
Yeah, his brother just signed with USC, so I would be really shocked if he signed with Alabama or committed to Alabama. But he is a real talent.
Yeah, and he's got Alabama in the list of finalists, and we've seen before. We've been shocked before when it comes to Nick Saban. Right. All right, still to come on TITV, Alabama hires a new volleyball coach. We'll tell you all about Rashinda Reed coming up next. And also, we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The phone number, as always, 205-348-WVOA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at TITV@WVOA23.com. Stu will be checking for those. Or tweet at us. Just use the hashtag TITV so that we'll see it. We'll be right back with more Tider Insider Television after this. Rashinda Reed is Alabama's new head volleyball coach. She is a Well, she has ties to the SEC. She played at Georgia. She's also a former assistant at UAB. But the last 5 years, she's been an assistant at Illinois in the Big Ten. They've been to a couple Sweet 16s, a Final Four. They're really one of the top programs in the country. She's been groomed for this position and looks like a great hire. Now, she still has to get in here and get it done. And Alabama volleyball, just being honest with you, the program's not in good shape. They only won 2 SEC matches this season. But she looks like a great hire at head coach for Greg Byrne. She'll replace Lindsey Devine, who resigned as head coach after 3 seasons here at Alabama. And welcome back in to Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's jump out on the phone lines, and our good friend Rick over in Regent Forest is with us. Hey, Rick.
Hey, fellas. Appreciate you taking my call.
You bet.
I'd like you to go over the big one that got away and 1 or 2 that we got that we shouldn't have. My initials are RTY, and they do stand for Roll Tide, y'all. Out.
I hear you, Rick. All right, Rod, let's start with one that got away because he was committed to Alabama, and that's Jaleel Skinner, the tight end that signed with Miami.
Yeah, he did. I think Jaleel's obviously an outstanding player out of IMG Academy, 6'5", 215 pounds. Gary, he's a guy that over a period of time has a lot of potential to develop. But you know what? I really like Amari Nyblack at that position. I think he's an H-back, kind of like Jaleel Billingsley. This guy's very, very talented that Alabama got very underrated, Amari Nyblack. So even though they lost Jaleel Skinner, they're bringing in Elijah Brown, they're bringing in Amari Nyblack, so I think they're okay.
Another one that Alabama, maybe even just a week or 10 days ago, looked really strong with was Damani Jackson, the great defensive back out of California. He signed with USC. Yeah,
again, I think the change with Lincoln Riley certainly helped USC's chances, plus they kept his primary recruiter, which was Dante Williams. I think that certainly helped as well.
And as far as one that Alabama got on the final day, the great, outstanding young defensive lineman from Pike Road there in Montgomery.
Well, I think Curtis Perry is one of the more disruptive players in the country. I think when you look at him, Gary, he may not have the ideal size for defensive lineman that, you know, maybe we've seen in the past here at Alabama, but he's so disruptive. And I'll say this, too. You talk about I don't know, a surprise, but certainly a late
on Friday
on the scene would have been Jihad Campbell, the 5-star pass rusher who was originally committed to Clemson, made a late visit to Alabama. And you talk about on Friday, Kendrick Law, one of the elite athletes in the entire country, can play a lot of positions, running back, wide receiver, safety. I mean, this guy is dynamic with the ball in his hand. So to me, he's a 5-star talent.
Absolutely. All right, John from Bessemer, our good friend there in Bessemer. John, hey, what's up, buddy?
Gary, what's going on, man?
You know it, man.
Hey, man, I was trying to find out can Alabama sign any more players? And I wonder, can Alabama beat Georgia again one more time later today?
All right, John. Well, first of all, yeah, Alabama can sign some more players. They're going to monitor this, who's left out there for February. They'll also continue to monitor the portal. Wouldn't surprise me if Alabama still added a couple more.
Yeah, possibly. If the right guys come available in the portal, you know, who knows? Maybe there's another Jamison Williams out there.
And can Alabama beat Georgia? Sure they can. I mean, Georgia hasn't beaten Alabama since 2007. Now, first of all, Alabama's got to beat Cincinnati and Georgia's got to beat Michigan. But if those two teams meet again, Alabama can beat Georgia. They did it once. They thumped them. Now, can Georgia beat Alabama? That's possible, too, but we'll have to see. All I know Nick Saban's focused on right now is Cincinnati. All right, we'll be back with more phone calls and emails right after this. There's the phone number again, 205-348-9882. Stick around. TITV is coming back. Welcome back to Tider Insider Television with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's get right back out on the phone lines. And BT is with us right here in Tuscaloosa. What's up, BT?
Not much, Gary Harris. And Rodney, how about y'all doing?
Doing great. Thank you.
Hey, Rodney and Gary, I want to ask y'all a question about basketball, about Alabama basketball. What the question is, do you think we need to do a better job on rebounding? The reason I ask is because the last 2 or 3 games, you know, when we shoot the ball, we not get back on, you know, defense.
Yeah. Right, BT. Yeah, the answer is yes. Alabama's got to rebound the ball better. Nate Oates has said it. I mean, it's, you know, especially on their defensive backboard. In other words, when the other team shoots, they got to start clearing the glass. You can't give the other team another opportunity or another opportunity after that. And sure, they need to get more offensive rebounds too so that they get more second chance points. And that's an area, Rodney, that's it's been concerning, and they're playing Davidson right now over in Birmingham in the CM Newton Classic. We'll have a score update before the end of the show, but that is an area where they need to get better. You know, they're a perimeter-based team. They play fast. When shots are going down, they look great. But when they're not scoring at as fast a clip. You got to get on the defensive glass, and when you're not making shots, you need to get some second chance opportunities yourself.
Yeah, and all of these are adjustments you have to make. I mean, you encounter these things throughout the season, and I think, obviously, Nate Oates has done a great job of making these adjustments. We'll see how this team kind of develops in that regard.
All right. Thanks for the phone call there, BTR. Let's get to a Twitter question from Goal Line Stan. Can you put into perspective by Alabama football under head coach Nick Saban? And it's about recruiting, put recruiting in perspective to go a step further. Yeah, Goal Line Stand, it's the best in the country. And, all right, we have a mic issue. We'll come back and finish answering that question right after this. All right, man, the first couple of Alabama football. Nick and Terry Saban celebrated wedding anniversary number 50 this past Saturday. Congratulations, 50 years. It's still going strong. They met in the 7th grade at a science fair, and here they are still together. It's absolutely awesome. I guarantee you Bama fans are as thrilled to have Miss Terry as they are the head football coach, Nick Saban. All right, before my mic died, we were answering a question from Goal Line Stan on Twitter. Put it in perspective, Alabama recruiting under Nick Saban. Goal Line Stan, any superlative that I can give you is the way you describe it, Rod. It's top notch. And it's not just 2 years in a row or 3 years in a row or one great year and you have a great team and then you fall back off because you didn't recruit. It's every year he's been able to bring in top 3 classes, and that is the main reason, among many others, development included, but the main reason Alabama's at the top every year is because they do sign some of the best players in the country.
I was thinking about it while you were kind of summarizing it, Gary. I think really as long as I've been following recruiting many, many, many years, I've only seen one program similar to it in terms of the consistency. That would have been Bobby Bowden at Florida State. I mean, year after year after year, they brought in this kind of talent, and obviously they had opportunities to win more national championships. They won 2, but very similar in that regard. But I still think this is at a higher level.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. All right, that is going to do it for tonight's show. Don't forget, if you missed any of this or you just want to catch it again or tell somebody about it, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 following the news at 10 on WVUA 23, or you can find it anytime at WVUA23.com. Also, Rodney will have it linked to TiderInsider.com. We'll leave you with highlights of Alabama basketball's win over Jacksonville State this past Saturday night. It wasn't easy, but the Tide got it done, 65-59. Thanks for watching Tider Insider TV. Good night, everybody.